And here we are.
Yes,
It's
we
IB
are.
Nation Sports Talk. It's Mailbag Wednesday. Vince. He's Vince. I'm Sean. It feels like we only do like one show a week together.
I know.
Anymore. You know,
It's all those women's basketball games, man. You're just,
But it is.
you're doing your thing, and it's exciting, but it's lonely for us. Okay, that's what I'll say.
That's true. Jesse, I had Jesse and Ryan both last night, and
No, that's right.
I guess are you and Jesse doing tomorrow night?
I believe tomorrow is an off night because I think Jesse has alternate plans. He's going to the Cavs game. So
okay,
and you obviously have a game, and
right.
so Solomio.
So it sounds like we'll all be back together on Friday then.
Friday
Fire show.
Friday, baby. Here we go.
Yep. I don't know who Ryan Roberts' forehead is, but he has been making some comments in here tonight. I've been kind of chuckling in the back, so it's
he's very respectful.
Been good.
Using our last names. I mean, okay.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, he's kind of been back here. Where is he? Where did it go?
And there's actually a picture of Ryan's forehead as the avatar.
Right. Huh. Well, Ryan Roberts' forehead says, "I'm better looking than Peyton Manning's forehead." True or false? I mean,
you don't take up as much real estate as Peyton Manning's forehead.
Yeah, it's a forehead,
right? So. I mean, is this like are we making fun of Ryan and his like receding hairline if he has one? Like I've never noticed.
Well, I thought that there was a question in here specifically about Ryan's forehead.
Oh my!
From Ryan Roberts' forehead's, username. So, just trying to start things up. Just trying to start a fire back here.
Seriously, and Squirrel's usually in here. He sometimes he jumps in. So
he actually wanted, Speaking of stirring things up, Ryan has been in here. Rank your top 5 IB listeners. So, I mean,
he might be upset with us if we pick Ryan Roberts' forehead.
Yeah, I know. Ryan Roberts' forehead might have to go to the top of the charts right now. There are too many. It's like everyone's a winner in this show.
And it's not like I want to give out participation ribbons or anything, but I will say it depends on the day. Like we have our loyal listeners, like Salty and T Guns, and it wouldn't be the same if they're not in DK. Like those guys are always here,
right?
And it's very much appreciated. See, Ryan, there you go. I have a great forehead. I agree, Ryan. I agree. It's never stood out in a negative way.
My forehead's getting larger, so
I think mine is
shinier. I think too. Yeah. The way it goes.
Wear a little makeup. He's got to, But it depends on the day. Like sometimes certain people annoy me, and then sometimes they're like all over it in a good way. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't know. I would be hard pressed, or I could do like a group of 5, but I don't know if I could rank them.
Yeah,
how about that? I could do.
You can't do that. It's like it's like asking someone to rank their co-host. Oh, I've already done that.
Oh, yeah, that's been done.
No, it's like asking you to rank your kids. I don't know, like if you've ever actually ranked your kids
in my head. I've never actually said it out loud.
Thing in your head.
I've never said it out loud. I don't.
Never, that's right.
I don't feel like that would go well. Like I don't have 5 like athletes that compete with each other, and then like the ranking would make them. You know what I mean? Like it would enhance them. It would just hurt feelings in my house, and so yeah, I don't know. It's a hard pass.
Mr. 2.0 says guys care way too much about other guys' foreheads. It's like people have to make fun of something that isn't naturally controllable because dudes are compensating for their own shortcomings.
Deep. That's deep. And you're probably not wrong, but
I've never really spent much time thinking about other people's foreheads. Honestly, I don't know.
I've never thought about it. I remember I had a buddy in high school who was losing his hair quite early. Like we came back like Christmas break of freshman year. It was like, who's this 35-year-old guy? And he was 18. You know what I mean? So like those are the things you notice, like the premature situation. But once you're our age, like, man, it is what it is. Like every time I go to the barber and I see a bunch of hair on my lap, I'm like, yeah, it's still there. And they like it is an ego boost to me when the barber gets out the thinning shears and starts going through my hair.
I used to do the thinning shears.
Yeah.
And then at one, like I would always tell him, do the thinning, because like my hair, and like if I let it grow out, it still would. It's always gotten really thick on the sides. And I've always had, and this has been several years ago, obviously, like if you look at my head now, but I told him, do the thinning shears. And he's like, do you really want to do that? Oh, we're at that point now.
That's where we're at,
okay.
All right. Exactly.
Thanks, buddy. Is it any surprise that I stopped going to the barber and just started getting out,
just
started
shaving it,
buzzing my own?
Yeah,
that's right.
I'll get there eventually. Don't worry.
Yeah,
it's only a matter of time with everybody. Frankly, well,
I know
most everybody.
Everybody. That's right. Yours is held up pretty well. I mean, you've only got like a handful of grays, and you still got a pretty.
I feel like
up there.
There's more like forehead here, but the grays on the side, they're getting to me. They are getting. My kids start pointing it out now, which is always fun.
So it is mailbag night. So bring on the questions. We've got a few start up and ready to go. Michael, I'll just there are some questions obviously that we have saved for rapid fire that we've got ready to go. Michael asking about the ESPN stuff today, talking about Notre Dame's relevance. That will come in rapid fire. So that's one we're saving for rapid fire, but it will come up in a little bit.
Just hilarious. The general media frenzy of the last 24 hours is hilarious to me.
Yeah, because we've got that and the other stuff that came up yesterday. And the ESPN stuff, the Stephen A. Smith stuff, came up when they started talking about the college football playoff thing, and so we've got kind of both of those queued up and and ready to go. Oh, all right.
Wow, that one guy. Okay,
that one guy with an interesting.
That's fine.
That.
Hey, look, everybody's entitled to their opinion, even when they're wrong. It's okay. I'm not saying that one guy is wrong. I'm just saying everybody's entitled to their opinion. It's all good.
Joe brought a recruiting question.
Uh-oh.
I don't know if Ryan is still in here. Maybe he can answer this, but you know how Vince and I are. We're not, like we talked a little recruiting on yesterday's show, but we're not going to go deep. Joe wanted to know the final holes that Notre Dame needs to fill in recruiting for the 2025 year, both offense and defense. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I don't have a whole lot of thoughts on it just because that's not really my niche. I know they're in the teens with commitments already.
Mm-hmm.
And I know
I think it's 17, if I remember right.
I mean, I know they still want to add another wide receiver. I know they want to add some more offensive linemen.
Here you go. Ryan says,
hey, look at that.
2 wide receiver spots, cornerback and linebacker.
There you go. Thanks, Ryan. Squirrel to the rescue. Appreciate you. And that makes sense. I mean, it does. It does make sense. And so, yeah. Well, and we'll just see what happens. I have a lot of faith in the recruiting prowess of the current staff headed by Marcus Freeman. So
right. There are a couple good ones that I saw in here. This is an interesting one from Ryan Roberts' Forehead. He says a 14-team playoff was reportedly discussed by the playoff management committee with a possible 2026 start year, and that's blank.
A waste. Like why are we expanding 2 teams? I don't see the relevance of expanding to 2 teams, expanding 2 more teams. That doesn't, if you're going to expand, you're going to expand bigger than that.
Seems like you would just go to 16. You're already at 12 and you've got
2
which for a bracket. I mean, obviously you've got the first round buys and all that kind of stuff. It just seems like you create 14 doesn't make much sense.
No,
just go to 16 if you weren't. And for that matter, they haven't even gone to 12 yet, and now we're already talking about a number greater than 12. Why don't we see how the 12 team plays out and what everybody thinks of it, and then address it after that? It took us 8 years to go from 4 to 12. It's a 10 at this point. Like, just wait a little bit.
Right. Exactly.
Let it marinate. Let it cook.
Yes. Because I think there's still going to be some things to be worked out with the whole 12-teamer. And, people are going to be it's just like the basketball bubble and all that, right? I mean, people are going to be up in arms on who the 69, 70, 71st teams are. And people are going to be up in arms about who the 13, 14, and 15 teams are. Like, it doesn't matter how big you get. There's still going to be people on the bubble that aren't going to make it in, and it's going to be great conversation. 12 is enough. Like, football is a different animal, right? I mean, you don't want to make that number too big. You don't.
Because the other thing to consider is you're already potentially going to play 17 games in the 12-team
correct
format. So if you expand beyond that, then you're going to like 18, 19. Like, you're getting even more than an NFL season at that point.
Right.
And I think that the more that you expand the direction NIL and all this different stuff is going, you are opening up just different cans of worms in terms of what the players are going to want, all those different kinds.
Well, then the whole season's going to be playoffs. Like,
right.
You're not going to be able to compete with the NFL playoffs. You're going to want things to be kind of in hand and done by the time the playoffs for the NFL really heat up. That's number one. Number two, you're not going to be able to compete with the Super Bowl, right? So does that mean you're going to move the college season earlier? So are we going to start games in the middle of August, like high school? Like, you don't need to have, as much as we would all love to have more games to watch, you're not going to make the season that much longer so that you can have longer playoffs. And so this number is going to have to be capped at some point. Now, you could go to, I guess, 16 would be the absolute max, because then you're not going to give anybody buys, number one. And number two, you're looking at the same amount of weeks of playoffs, right? You get any bigger than that, now you're adding weeks and you're adding time, and it's not going to happen.
And I think Andy Saylor hit it. The SEC and the Big Ten with this whole thing that they're doing, they're supposedly asking for more slots guaranteed in the play. I mean, they're going to get multiple spots as it is, and and again, it's like they're already trying to get more spots because, of course, they are.
Right,
and
they're all good. Have you ever noticed anybody to be happy with where they're at? Everybody always wants more, always. And that's never going to change.
It's no lie. Ryan says just make it 132 team playoffs. Just let them all in.
Just make it all playoffs. Just the whole, like, some teams only get to play one game. Sorry, you're out. Single elimination. And then, that's the season.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan.
Josh wants to know, with Max Bullough getting promoted to linebackers coach, do they hire a new GA for the defensive side?
100%. Yes. 100%. You only get X amount of GAs. I think it's 4. Generally, it's 2 on offense, 2 on defense. 100%. You're going to hire a new defensive GA, probably somebody that is well versed at safety, or at least in the secondary.
Right.
But yes, absolutely, you replace him, because a GA is essentially an assistant coach. You don't leave that spot open. You absolutely replace it. 100%.
Yeah, and there's no reason not, because with Mike Mickens taking on more responsibility, with him being in charge of the entire secondary now, you get him an assistant, so that when it's time to do individual position drills, Mike Mickens can take the cornerbacks and focus on the cornerbacks, and the GA takes the safeties and focuses on the safeties and does that kind of stuff. There'll still be stuff that they can do together, just like always, but that's why you need that extra guy, to basically for that to work on position specific stuff, and maybe in the film room as well, like, so Mickens can take the corners and focus on things in the film room specific to the cornerbacks. The GA takes the safeties, and then at some point they probably come together and look at bigger picture stuff and all that. But absolutely.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And again, it'd be like leaving an assistant coach job open. Like, that's never going to happen. They will always fill assistant coach and GA spots. Always, always, always.
Right. Benjamin wants to know, with the new strength coach, do you think we see Notre Dame players testing better for the NFL, because that was his background?
Ooh. I mean, I thought, honestly, under Coach Bayless, Notre Dame kids tested really, really well at the combine. That was never a problem with testing. And so I think setting the bar at testing better than they did than when Matt Balis was there is setting the bar awfully high. Now, is it possible he could tweak some things here and there because he was specifically training guys for the combine? Sure.
Yeah,
I could see that. I could see that. But man, I mean, if you look at some of the numbers that like these wide receivers and the skill guys were testing out at the combine under Balis, they were really, really good. They're really, really good and surprised a lot of people.
You could see a little bit of a bump again because of what he's talking about, the fact that this was a guy, and how much of that gets incorporated into his daily routines or the off-season routines and stuff like that. I would be curious to know, things that are going to be specific to testing. But the other side of this is, as recruiting continues to improve, you expect, as a few years go on and these guys start matriculating to the NFL, because just look at the bodies, right? Like the bodies that you're going to be talking about,
right.
Higher, that they're going to be coming in with more speed, theoretically, with higher levels of quickness, quick twitch and all these different things. So you would expect, because they're starting out higher, that they're going to do better once they finish at Notre Dame as well and get ready for the NFL. Like, you would just expect that you're going to start to see more, like, every year Notre Dame has a guy or two talked about in the first round. You would expect that you're going to start to see more Notre Dame players talked about as first round guys when they finish up at Notre Dame.
Well, and, like you said, a lot of that has to do with the recruiting too. I mean, you're getting better stock in to work with. Like, I've coached teams where the jimmies aren't great and you do the best you can with what you got, right? And I've also coached places where the jimmies are really good and they make you look really good and you've just got better stock to work with. That, I feel like that's kind of where Notre Dame is trending. They're going to be working with better stock, deeper stock, better talent, that kind of a deal. And Ryan's absolutely right. These guys leave the college program and they go work with guys that specifically train them for the combine. That's 100% accurate. But I also think that there is a foundation that is built at the college that, again, these guys that they work with, when you've got a better foundation, you're going to have a better building, right? It's the same thing. You have a better foundation going into one of those places. Those guys are going to have more to work with and to get more success.
Completely agree with that. Benjamin, over under 5.5 RPO plays a game this upcoming season.
Oh, well over.
Yeah, I think so too.
They were almost there this year, to be honest with you. Not enough and not as consistently, but there were games where they were over.
Mm-hmm.
It just wasn't enough. And there's a lot of opportunity, by the way. If we don't have the playbook in front of us, sometimes it's difficult to tell what an RPO is. A lot of times you can tell, but to the average fan, it is a little bit more difficult. There are going to be more RPO.
Because a lot of it just comes down to the pre-snap read. It's not necessarily like
exactly.
You got to remember the difference between RPO and like read option type stuff. Like, if you're talking about true read option with Riley Leonard, that kind of stuff, you're definitely going to see more of it,
right?
Because Sam Hartman could run. He didn't necessarily want to run. I mean, just look at the speed that he tested out at the Senior Bowl a few weeks ago. Riley Leonard is obviously much more of a running, true dual threat quarterback. So there'll be more of that. But again, there's a difference between RPO and the zone read, where you're holding the ball in the belly of the running back and making, reading the defensive end and that kind of thing.
Yep. And there's going to be plenty of opportunity for RPOs. Number one, Mike Denbrock runs more of them. Number two, I think Riley Leonard's game is set up a little bit more for RPOs. And I think the wide receiving core is going to be better, obviously, this year. It's going to be set up better for RPOs. There is a confluence of things all around that sets up better for RPOs this season as opposed to last season. And I think it complements Riley Leonard's game better than it did Sam Hartman's game.
Correct.
So for all of those reasons, I'm taking the over.
Correct. Agree. Now, Salty was complaining a minute ago that I wasn't using one of his questions.
Oh, come on, Salty.
I don't know if he's just imitating Tommy or what, but my question shot down again. You're not answering it. So this one, I don't know if he's just trying to stir stuff up again. He says, fill in the blank. The idea that the Notre Dame women's basketball team lacks commitment and good coaching is total bull blank. I mean,
wow.
Like that's out there? Like, is that, how serious are you even being with it? You're just trying to stir it up now?
I think
he's trying to stir me up?
He's poking the bear, man. He's
I
poking
think that's
the bear.
what he's doing.
Jeez.
I mean, it's total bull bleep is what it is.
Yes, it is. Now, if we're going to be on the college, women's college basketball side of things, Keith has a question. And that's not Keith because it just went away. There we go. Specifically for you, says Sean, do you still feel a home court advantage with the Lady Irish?
I tell you what, it's the fact that they've lost a couple games at home to both North Carolina and North Carolina State would seem to, say that, maybe there's not a home court advantage. But at the same time, I just go back, to what I've said a couple times in the last week. The ACC is deeper this year, maybe deeper than ever before. That's the biggest thing to me. Like, Duke beat Virginia Tech, the Duke women. Notre Dame beat Duke at Duke 2 nights ago. The team Notre Dame is going to play tomorrow night, Clemson, has, I believe it is 5 wins in conference play this season. They beat Duke, so look at that little circle right there. A team that's sitting toward the bottom of the conference, Clemson, beat Duke, which beat the team at the top of the conference, Virginia Tech, and Duke, which had won 9 straight games at home and hadn't lost a home game since only losing to South Carolina, the number 1 team in the country, back in December. Again, it's a deep conference is what it comes down to me. So it's not just Notre Dame that's lost a couple of home games. Everybody's losing games this year. That's because it's deeper than it was last year, and it's definitely deeper than it was a couple of years ago.
Parity. Yeah. It's there. It's alive and well. And it's not parity that they all stink and they just all happen to beat each other. It's like there's actually good, solid teams in the ACC. I agree with you completely from watching.
They're most likely going to get, I'd be shocked if they didn't get 8 teams, at least 8, chance for 9 in the tournament, in the NCAA tournament when the selections come out. So that's a lot.
That is a lot.
You got to think about it that way. And who was it? Miami beat, again, just looking at all these different who's done this and all, Miami beat somebody that was pretty good. I can't remember exactly who it was. Off the time. And Miami is another team that's sitting, in the lower third of the conference right now. So I wouldn't get wrapped up in, Jesse and I were talking about it yesterday. Notre Dame has gone on the road and beaten both Duke and Florida State in their last couple of road games. Unfortunately, I don't want to get too locked up in it again. NC State's a really good defensive team.
Sure.
So don't get too caught up in what happened last week. The good news is you get to the NCAA tournament and you're going to play teams that you haven't played a couple times a year and year in and year out. And it's harder to put together a scouting report.
Let me ask you this, and then we'll put this one to bed. For Notre Dame to host the first 2 rounds, they've got 4 games left.
Right.
What do they got to do in those 4 games?
Probably need to win out.
Okay.
I saw them projected. They dropped a little bit after losing last week. Now, this is the ESPN projections. It doesn't always mean it. It's weird because, again, as good as the conference has been, Notre Dame still has the best net ranking of any team in the conference, even though they're, they're starting to slip a little bit, in terms of the human polls and all that different kind of stuff. But so they were, they didn't show up in that first top 16 last week, which means they weren't going to be a 4 seed, which means at best they're projected as a 5 seed, and they were projected as a 5 seed initially. They slipped a little bit after the loss to NC State, but you've got Virginia Tech and Louisville, the number 1 team in the conference, and I think it's the number 3 or 4 team, Louisville, in the conference right now. They're maybe they're 4. Yeah, they're 4. They're behind NC State right now. So you've got number 1 and number 4 in terms of the ACC coming to your place to close the regular season next week. You win those 2 games and you win. You know, if you win those 2 games and you take care of business against Clemson and Boston College, there's a very good chance they're going to be the 4 seed at the ACC tournament. And if they do that, I think that increases their odds greatly to end up hosting first and second round games. And then you win a couple games at the ACC tournament on top of that. I would give them like 95% chance to end up hosting if that happens. But I think they probably have to beat both Virginia Tech and Louisville for that. They definitely are going to have to do that, to get one of those top 4 seeds. I think they're going to have to do that probably to be hosting NCAA tournament games as well.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. That's my bracketology take for today.
Hey, love it. We're going to keep visiting it, man, because every game matters at this point.
Right.
It does.
Right. We're getting down there now. Shannon, totally out of left field. Rank your top 3 Michael Jackson songs of all time. Harder than I thought. Smooth Criminal. I would agree with that. Billie Jean, another good one. Those would probably be my top 3. I'm not a huge Michael Jackson fan. I did, I was in high school when Thriller came out in the 80s when Vince was like 3, so Vince is not as much of a music guy to begin with. I was never like a huge Michael Jackson guy, but it's funny you put Smooth Criminal up there because while I don't have any Michael Jackson in my, my iTunes
in your catalog
playlist or whatever, like on my phone, I've got the Alien Ant Farm cover of Smooth Criminal. I don't know if you remember that one from about
100%
years ago.
Yeah, I remember that one. Michael Jackson version's better, but that's. I am a Michael Jackson fan. I will say that.
I didn't realize that.
I did have.
That makes sense because you're a Beatles guy too.
Yeah,
so that
100%.
Beatles, Michael Jackson. Okay.
So I think of Michael Jackson. I had, this is going to age me obviously, but I had like a burnt disc that I put together of all Michael Jackson songs that I would play in the car and just like rock out. So I am an MJ fan. Of course, that my CD case got stolen at one point, so that's gone. But like ABC, and I know that's Jackson 5, but I still kind of compute that with Michael Jackson. I really like that song, but those 3 right there, you can't go wrong with those 3. Some of the slower stuff, not a fan. I don't know. Like he did a song with oh my gosh, my mind is just absolutely blank. Paul McCartney.
Yeah. Ebony and Ivory.
It was it's a different song than that. Yeah. But anyway, it was slow.
Oh, The Girl Was Mine. The Girl Was Mine. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a hard pass. Like that kind of stuff, I'm not so much. Some of his later stuff's not so great, but the stuff in like the 80s, not like early 90s.
You can tell that I'm a guy of the 80s, the MTV era, because that stuff was on all the time, whether you like the artist or not. Yes. And because MTV was relatively new, you were watching the videos.
Sure.
So,
100%.
Yeah, there was that, and there was that. He didn't do it with Paul McCartney. The black or what, it don't matter if you're black or white. That whole thing. I think Macaulay Culkin was in the video or something, if I remember right.
I think you're right about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of that stuff not so much, but he was
Ebony and Ivory was Steve.
There you go.
Good call.
But he was an innovator with like the music video genre,
which makes sense that it wouldn't be Paul McCartney, obviously. Yeah. Ebony and Ivory, the whole reason for the whole song. Yeah.
But like with Thriller and all that stuff, like those were productions, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so like Bad is a good song.
Yeah.
That was a whole thing with their music video. And so I'm a big MJ fan. There's no doubt about that. Like the Michael Jackson halftime show at the Super Bowl. It's one of the best of all time.
Yeah. I'm much more, again, I watched all that stuff. Much more like a Prince guy, like from that same kind of time period, those early, like Prince and his guitar and all that
kind
of stuff.
Yes, absolutely. They're asking me what I downloaded the songs from. When I was in college, we had like a I don't
You
know.
were on Napster. You were like on Napster
Oh,
before it went
100%.
under, right?
No, there was absolutely. And we had a drive because it was like the internet was around, but it was like a drive that was shared by everybody. And so like everybody uploaded all the songs they had, and then you had access to everybody's music, and then you could just download it or burn a disc or something like that. So I had all kinds of playlists from everybody else's music, and I didn't realize I was so naive. I did not understand how it worked. I went home and I tried to play the songs. Of course, it wouldn't work because I never downloaded them. I just had like a playlist, you know what I mean? And so I was like, dang it, totally lost that opportunity. But yeah.
Somebody already kicked it out of there accidentally, but somebody was saying that Michael Jackson was a poor man's Rick Astley, which is that's funny. But Rick Astley's got that kind of second life with Foo Fighters and the whole, never gonna give you up and whole Rick roll and all that kind of stuff. So there it is, Sloppy Joe. It was Sloppy Joe who said it. Yeah, that's right. He's never gonna let you down, never gonna give you up.
Yeah, this is true. I know that song.
Somebody asked favorite 80s song of all time. That is just way too hard for me. I
bet that is way too hard.
I don't even know where I would go.
Yeah, because there's so many genres and there's just so many different areas to hit. There's a lot of good music in the 80s, man.
There's a lot of good music, a lot of bad music.
This is also true.
In between, but I don't think I could nail it down to just one personally. With the rigors of the new SEC schedules, what are the odds the SEC champ has multiple losses, and how glorious would it be if said SEC team didn't get a top 4 seed?
Well, I mean, the winner of the SEC is going to get a top 4 seed. Doesn't matter what their record is. If you win the ACC, you're a top 4 seed. I mean, that's just how it goes, man. So you could have, which would obviously benefit Notre Dame in the what if Notre Dame is this, and this, and they get the 5 seed? Well, Notre Dame is going to be playing the worst conference champion in the second round. They're going to be playing the 4 seed.
Right.
So,
if they're the 5 seed, right, they play a 4 seed.
So, okay. I mean, there's going to be years where there's an upset or something like that in a conference championship game. And could there be a multi-loss team that wins the SEC? Yeah, there could be. There definitely could be, for sure.
Yeah, the odds are going to be really high that in the SEC and in the Big Ten, that those conferences are going to have a team with multiple losses because the fact that you've got so many teams in those conferences.
Yeah.
Now.
Absolutely. And it carnage. I mean, a lot of really good teams, and it is what it is. And again, well, we can talk about Notre Dame's place in the playoff later, but I will say
we will.
It adds to the intrigue of the 12-team playoff. It does. And I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
That's a very lively chat here tonight.
Oh, it certainly is.
James wants to know if we could explain how and why a recruit reclassifies from one year to another. Benefit of that is to leave high school early and join a college team earlier? ?
Well, there's 2 ways to reclassify, right? You can reclassify up or down. And so
Ryan and I talked a little about this last night. There's a current recruit who reclassified down, actually, 2 junior years, basically. So
exactly. And so, I mean, you can do that. A lot of times it involves going to a prep school for a year, that type of thing. And I don't know the details of what the Notre Dame recruit, how that all went down. But most of the time, that's what happens when you reclassify the other direction. Now, reclassifying so that you're only in high school for 3 years, that's absolutely possible. A lot of that has to do with, you just don't take those extracurricular type classes, those electives, and you just take your core classes and you get them done. You go to summer school and you have a plan to get out a year early, which is 100% do. It's not even a year early. It's half a year early. And it's really, in this day and age, it is not difficult to do when you have the possibility of online classes and summer school and all of these different avenues to get your classes done. It's not like in the old days where you actually had to sit in a classroom and take the class. Like, that's just not the case anymore. And so you can graduate early very, very easily anymore. I mean, most kids could graduate in 3 years if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Not even 3.5, like 3. You could be done.
Especially if you've been on, like a college prep course since you entered high school. It would be much easier to do like I was not in that department, but much easier to graduate a year early, a little summer school if you know what you're going to do, and some of it comes to, like, if you're going to do that, if you're trying to finish up early, some of it comes down to, like there was talk about whether or not CJ Carr would reclassify. And you look at Notre Dame's quarterback room and you sort of get his process accelerated so that he is in the program, learning the offense a year earlier and all that different kind of stuff. There's benefit for him to potentially, start, he's going to use that year as a red shirt, but still be able to potentially be ready to start sooner. And it helps the program and that kind of thing. And the other, when you're reclassifying backwards, like Ryan was talking about, you've got a younger guy who maybe just needs another year of development, like getting his body ready to go into college. Like this has been a while back, but if I remember right, Maurice Stovall, I think might have been 16 years old, 16, like early 17 when he first arrived on campus.
That's crazy.
But he, there he was. But if you're, if you're an offensive lineman, which was specific to the case that Ryan and I were talking about last night, if you're an offensive lineman, it makes sense because physically you need another year to get in those weights and do all that different stuff to get your body ready.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you got the crazy parents out there that make their kid do 8th grade twice, to get them ready for frosh tryouts and all this other stuff. Like, there is, I mean, as much as I think those parents are crazy, because 99 out of 100 times, you're not going to know if your kid's going to be college material when he's in 8th grade the first time. It can have a benefit, obviously, because you're going to be more physically ready. Just looking at my own kid, he looks completely different from this time last year to this year because he, puberty and working out and just getting naturally bigger, right? So looks a lot different. And so if he was, instead of being sophomore to junior year, it was freshman to sophomore year, I'd be like, holy crap, like that would be a big difference. So I get it. I'm also, to be honest with you, not a fan of the accelerated and getting a kid out of high school early. Call me mushy or whatever, but I still think that there's a lot of things to experience your second semester of your senior year and graduating with your class. And
although I would say this,
I don't know,
prom is overrated. Having spent too much time thinking about prom and who I was going to take to those stupid overrated dances, prom is completely overrated. So if you're young and you're watching or listening to the show right now, don't base any of your decisions on that stupid prom.
You can still go to prom, by the way.
I went to both of mine. We could only go junior and senior year. We couldn't go, earlier than that. Went to both. So it's not like, I got left home or whatever, but prom is completely overrated. That's all I'm going to say.
So I would say there's other things to experience as well. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like second semester senior year is
I agree.
Is cool.
Prom is typically out there at the end, though. Pay for a stupid, tux, and you go to some stupid place to eat, and she's got an ugly dress on. Maybe the dresses look nicer now. I don't know. But, man, I look at those photos, and I'm like, why did I even care about that?
Yeah.
Why?
And that's fair. And I'm not saying it's all about prom, but I am saying you miss out on stuff, especially, and that's just enrolling early. That's not reclassifying. If you reclassify, you miss your entire senior year. And I do have an issue with that. Now, in my regard, like if my child wanted to reclassify, or if he wanted to, leave a semester early or whatever, number one, kickers don't need to leave a semester early. That's stupid. But number two,
here we go. Vince talking about the kickers again.
No, I'm just saying, even if he's been a 4-year varsity track player, a track member, right? You know what I mean? Like, you want to give up your senior year? Like, I would have an issue, but maybe he doesn't give a crap. But like, I would have.
I mean, if like you're a multi-sport athlete, obviously you have to give up whatever winter sport, even, or like
or the most of it.
You're gonna have to give up your winter sport, or at least the end of it. You might start off playing it, but
right. So again, maybe my kid doesn't care about that. Maybe track is just something you do in the spring. But like, I feel like senior year is the payoff. You know what I mean? Of all you put in the 3 years, senior year is the payoff. So again, that's just me. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, a buddy of mine from back in high school, his son was a pretty good wrestler, played football as well, and he got a scholarship to play football at a smaller school, not a Division I school. And he had gone to state at least 2 of his first 3 years, and I think he placed as a junior and was kind of getting a little bit better every year. And for whatever reason, like, he didn't enroll early, but he just decided not to wrestle his senior season, even though he probably would have been, I think he would have, like, going into the season, probably would have been one of the favorites, to potentially win state that year. And he just decided he wasn't going to wrestle his senior year because he wanted to focus on football at that point and getting ready for college, even though, again, it was a small, not even like he was going to, even a lower level, Power 5 or a Group of 5 or anything like that. So
I mean, again, it's
what you want to do.
It's to each his own. It's to each his own. You know what I mean? So it is what it is.
Yeah. Okay, so we just did that. Gotta get rid of that. Thanks for the super chat, David. I don't know how far we're going to be able to go with this. He says, great show as always. Do you have any update on Damian Shanklin or Derek Meadows? Worries, be great additions, already huge class. Again, I don't know if Ryan's here, but that's not really up our alley, but
not even close.
Because he threw it in as a super chat, we had to at least read it.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, David. I want to say these guys are both offensive linemen, but I could be completely wrong on that. I should probably look that up before I say that out loud, but Ryan or Brian, for that matter, are the guys to ask that question to, David. And I could throw it to Brian, actually. If Ryan doesn't answer it in the chat, then let's make a mark of this one, and I will let Brian know. So the next time they do a mailbag, they can talk about it. So, here we go. Ryan Roberts says, Notre Dame. Here, we can pull it up.
Okay.
Whoop, that's not it. There we go. Notre Dame is the assumed leader for both. They need to close with Shanklin and hold off the big recent offers for Meadows. So there we go.
All right.
Thank you, Ryan. Always there for the assist.
Thanks as always. Mr. D'Addario. Top 4 seeds to go for the highest ranked conference champs, not just the Power 4. I don't know.
Okay.
But you started this, so.
Yeah, no. So what Ryan Roberts' forehead is saying is that there is a chance that the
4 highest ranked conference champions get the top 4 seeds.
There's a chance that a group of 5 team could be one of the 4 highest ranked teams, and then therefore they would get one of the top 4 seeds. Is that a possibility? Sure. Is it a high possibility? No.
Remember, there's only been one group of 5 team that's even made the playoffs so far in a 14 field.
And
so
a group of 5 being the highest ranked would be very, very difficult. I would, because even that group of 5 team that you're mentioning is now part of the Power 4. And so you know what I mean? So like, it would be a very difficult proposition for that to be the case, I would say. But you never know. I feel like the Tulanes and the SMUs of the world and whatever, like sometimes they're not even ranked at all, and they get into the New Year's 6. And so I highly doubt that one of the conference champions is going to be lower ranked than a group of 5, but it's definitely possible. So you are right, just not probable.
Sloppy Joe wants to know if you have a favorite WWE walk-up song.
That's a high no, because I never watched WWE. So I got nothing on that. I'm sure they played some great classic rock songs, coming out, and some of those WWE guys. And so there's probably a song that I like, but I would never know who to associate it with.
I always like that Hulk Hogan, I am a real American thing, you know.
There you go.
Like all WWE was a little cheesy and, you know, that whole thing. But, I mean, it got you fired up, and it was the peak of Hulk Hogan. So
there you go. I will defer to you on this one. Sorry. I tried really hard to get into WWE. Like a bunch of my friends had like a big party in high school where they were watching one of the SmackDowns or whatever, and it was incredibly boring. And I'm sorry, I tried.
It just changed so much to me. I mean, and I was older, obviously, by then. By the time you would have been in high school, but that was probably like what, The Rock and John Cena, or like
it was like 97-ish.
What's his name? Goldberg, or one of those kind of guys. That was completely different era. Once Hogan and Piper and Flair and all those guys were pretty much done, it was that was it.
Yeah. Can never really get into it. Sorry.
Thanks for the super chat, Tyler. Do you believe the Bears trade Justin Fields now?
No, I don't want them to. I don't know what they're going to do, because the Bears.
No, it's not that you want them to. Do you believe they will?
The Bears organization is so volatile, and nobody knows what they're going to do. So I don't know what to believe. So I'm going to stick with what I want them to do. And I do not want them to trade Justin Fields. I want them to trade the pick.
Ryan is saying yes, yes, yes.
Well, I mean, that's fine. I'm going to have to renounce my fanhood. I cannot root for that guy.
I'll be curious to see, because I've seen the report that supposedly they want, like a record haul, for if they were to trade the number one pick, they want like a record, like something like no one has ever seen, basically, to get that pick. I just don't know if you trade Justin Fields. I don't know. Are you even going to get a second round pick back? Like, I don't know. I don't know what you're going to get in exchange for Justin Fields.
I mean, even if you don't get the King's ransom that you're looking for, you're going to get more by trading the number one pick. You're going to get more. Right. You're going to make your team better. All you're going to do is put Justin Fields behind another makeshift offensive line, and you're not going to have the pieces around him to make him successful, and you're starting over again. That's not good. It's a hard pass.
Ryan says, I'd rather get a second than pay Fields $40+ million a year. I mean, I completely agree with that, because that's what's coming next, is you're going to have to pay him. But again, are you even going to get a second? That's my point. Like, I don't even know if you're going to get a second round pick for him. Like, if you are like, if you're the Jets, is Justin Fields worth a second round pick? Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be around that much longer. Right? Like, you don't even know for sure that you're going to have him for next year, even though you probably will. But if you're the Jets, quarterback hungry, are you going to give up a second round pick and then also have to pay him? Because no matter who it is, Fields his contract is going to expire. So someone's going to have to pay him, whether it's the Bears or whoever you trade him to. So are you going to give up that high a pick and pay him? I just don't know.
You're not going to get a one for Justin Fields.
Yeah, I just don't know what kind of commodity.
Yeah, you're not going to get a first-round draft pick for Justin Fields. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
No, there's no way. You're not getting a first-round pick.
Not going to happen.
Sorry. I know you're a Bears fan, Bear Down Soldiers. There's no way you're getting a first-round pick for Fields.
Yeah, not going to happen. Sorry.
I know we're not supposed to be that definitive on this show. From what we've been told, because things can happen.
Well,
but I just don't believe. I do not believe that anyone will give up a first-round pick to get Fields.
I don't believe it either. And if they do, their franchise is worse than Chicago at making decisions.
Yeah. Ryan says Sam Bradford was once traded for a first.
There's always
people learn their lessons as well.
Yeah, you can always point to those outliers and things like that. We've seen enough of Justin Fields. You're not going to get a first-round draft pick for him. It's just not going to happen.
Because I'm looking, okay, Buffalo, no. Miami, no. Patriots, maybe.
They got a 3.
Yeah.
So they're going to get a quarterback.
Right. But it depends on, are they going to get the quarterback they want? Giants,
Maybe they're dumb enough.
Yeah. Cowboys, no. Eagles, no. Commanders, I mean, they're obviously sitting in position, for one of those. They're going to get a quarterback as well. Ravens, no. Bengals, no. Browns, well, they had to give up a lot to get Deshaun Watson. Steelers,
yes, they did, and they paid him.
If you're the Steelers, would you give up a first-round pick?
No, because I think they like Kenny Pickett for whatever reason.
Ugh.
I know, but I think they do.
Yeah. Lions, no. Packers, no. Vikings, they got to decide what they're going to do with Kirk Cousins. But you're in the same division. Like, if you're the Bears, you're only giving up Justin Fields to Minnesota if you get a first-round pick. But even then,
which I just, yeah.
Texans, no.
No.
Colts, no.
No.
Jaguars, no.
No.
Titans, maybe. Falcons, maybe. Panthers, are you going to double down right after you took Bryce Young, or are you going to give away?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think you're doing another deal with the Bears. Right now you're already licking your wounds if you're the Panthers.
Yeah, exactly.
Saints, maybe. Tampa Bay, I don't think so.
They just re-upped on Baker, didn't they?
Yeah. Broncos, I mean, you've got a head coach who thinks that he is a genius, and the answer really hasn't proven anything. You need a better quarterback if you're going to be in that division, because you got Harbaugh coming in with Herbert, and you've obviously got Mahomes.
Justin Fields is not a fit with Peyton. I just don't see it. I don't see that as being a fit.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Raiders, I could see the Raiders.
Raiders could do a million stupid things. I mean, that's definitely possible.
I know.
That's definitely possible.
Only team in the NFC West. You got the Cardinals. You got Kyler Murray. The Rams, I just don't see Stafford's probably going to retire within the next couple of years, but I can't see McVay wanting Justin Fields as his guy. 49ers aren't going to pull the trigger. Seahawks got a new head coach, and you got Geno Smith. He's serviceable, but that's the only team in the division out there I could see doing it. I
just don't see any of those teams giving up a number 1 draft pick for him.
I don't either.
I do not see it. I'm sorry. I guess as a Bears fan, maybe I hope I'm wrong, but I just don't see that being the case. And I would still much rather have them trade out of 1 and get not a king's ransom, maybe a queen's ransom for the pick, and loading up on all the other issues that the Bears have. Look, Justin Fields is not the problem. Justin Fields is not the problem, people. I will say that until the cows come home. He's not the problem.
I like how people are down on their teams. Commanders would have made that trade before the sale. Probably right about that. Joe Allen says Minnesota always does stupid stuff. I mean, not as stupid as, say, the Bears or the Jets or the Panthers, but
hey,
the Bears have to decide if they're a legitimate organization or not. That's what it comes down to.
You're not wrong about that. You're not.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough being a Bears fan.
Brent said, did Brian give advance directive not to engage in any of my 49ers stock? No, Brent. Was Brent throwing some 49ers stuff out there?
The Bears might offer the 49ers a king's ransom for Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah. I was kind of out of where the comments were when I was looking at the list to make sure that I, when I was going through all those NFL teams, to make sure that I didn't leave anybody out. So when I was doing that, I wasn't looking at the chat to see any questions coming through. But what was the question about Ayuk? King's ransom for Ayuk? I don't know. That's another good receiver, but he's gotten better. Like, I think this was probably the best year of Brandon Ayuk's career. But, if Deebo Samuel were to go someplace else, then maybe Ayuk kind of takes that mantle and, elevates himself. But he's been solid, but not spectacular so far, especially for where he was drafted.
Justin Fields is one of the 5 top most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL. Okay. and he's only 2 sacks away from being in the number 3 spot. So he's not the problem. That's all I'm saying. Does he move around a lot? Does he, make some questionable decisions? Sure. But sometimes he moves around a lot because he doesn't have a choice.
He hasn't been coached well his first 2 years either.
He's had a different offensive coordinator every year he's been in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like, give the man some stability. Look, I realize I'm going to bat for an Ohio State guy, which I never thought I would do, but he's not the major problem here. He's not. It's coaching and it's the players around him. Okay? You can do a lot better by getting other guys on the roster and help him out.
No, you're right. But I mean, to Ryan's point, that's still like you can add all these things around him, but if you're going to keep Justin Fields, you're going to have to pay him. And that's the decision that the Bears have to make. Do you really want to pay Justin Fields and basically push all your chips in there and say Fields is the answer? Now we've got to pay him, as Ryan said, $40+ million a year, and then put all these pieces around him and then find out in 2 to 3 years that he's not even as good as Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
Who they've been paying a lot of money for the last few years. And now Dak's already got a contract coming up. Jesse with a cheapo super chat. What Notre Dame player are you most excited to see drafted? I guess by contract, we're obligated to say thanks for the super chat, Jesse. But as DK said, $2. Come on.
Seriously, he's been bragging about how much money he's been making betting. He throws us $2.
I know, right?
Whatever. I mean, look, again, as a Bears fan, I am most excited to see if Joe Alt ends up in Chicago. That's what I want to see. So
I like that.
Yeah.
As a Cowboys fan, I'm most excited to see if Audric Estime ends up in Dallas.
There you go.
I actually admitted I'm still a Cowboys fan. It hit my heart. At
least you guys win games.
That's fair.
In the regular season.
Chief Brody, settle an argument between me and my brother. I'd rather have the 4-team playoff because Notre Dame would have a better chance to actually win a title versus the 12-team. They will get more cracks, but harder to win.
I don't know if it's harder to win. I mean, Notre Dame's been in the 4-team playoff, and they have not even come close to winning. So I don't think it is easier to win. I don't. So, yes, do they have to win 4 games in a row? Yep.
I mean, winning 2 games is obviously easier than winning 4 games in a row.
I get that.
Especially because the level of competition is higher. But
it's also harder to get in.
Right.
And you're immediately playing high-level competition.
Yeah.
That may not be the case in the 12-team playoff.
Yeah, as a 3 or the 4 seed, you're automatically playing the 1 or the 2, one of the top 2 teams in the country. And it's harder to win those games. Now, you're absolutely, I mean, simple math says it's harder to win 4 than 2, like you said. But at the same time, I think Notre Dame as a program is already on better footing than they were the last time they were in the playoff.
I agree with that too. I do agree with that. And look, a 12-team playoff, if you're in, you got a shot. And if you're number 5 in this current setup, you don't have a shot. And so I would much rather get an invitation to the dance and have an opportunity to dance with the hottest girl in the room than not even get through the door. And so that's why I like the 12-team playoff better, because at least you get to get in.
Plus the fact that you have an opportunity to host first-round games, which I think
that's huge.
It's important in a lot of different ways.
I am personally excited to go to a playoff game at Notre Dame Stadium in December.
With that, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Nope, we're good.
Are you ready for rapid fire, Vince?
I am ready for rapid fire.
Because this takes us into what we're starting off rapid fire with. Fill in the blank. All the uproar about Notre Dame never being able to get a first-round college football playoff bye after the new 12-team format was finalized yesterday is blank.
Hilarious. It's like, were these people in hibernation over the last 2 years? And what's with the national media bringing it up all of a sudden? Like, this is new news. This is almost 2.5 years old, this news. I mean, I believe it came out in 2021.
Yeah.
So,
what it's been nearly 3 years. I think it was like the summer of 21 was when this first came out. So it's been nearly 3 years.
Almost 3.
The only difference in this is they switched it. Instead of 6 automatic qualifiers and 6 at-large bids, which was the original draft. The only difference is there are 5 automatic qualifiers and 7 at-large bids. That's the only difference. In either case, Notre Dame was not going to be able to get one of the top 4 seats.
Right.
That's the same. It's exactly the same.
It's never changed. And it actually gets better for Notre Dame because there's another at-large bid now. So,
right.
I mean, what's the problem here? What? And the funny thing is, it's not even Notre Dame fans that are complaining. It's people that just want to try to poke the bear of
it's the anti-Notre Dame people.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, join the conference. Stop whining. Nobody's whining. Like, anybody that understands the situation is not whining at all.
Right. It is just uninformed garbage.
Yes.
Is all it is. Because again, people are talking about this like Notre Dame is being penalized. And this is the latest reason that Notre Dame needs to join a conference, when Jack Swarbrick is one of the people who was in the room. He was literally in the room with the Greg Sankeys and the rest of the players of the world. Like, it was conference commissioners and a school athletic director, Jack Swarbrick.
Yes.
So think about that for a minute if you're trying to criticize this. The people who were in charge of entire conferences, Jack Swarbrick was sitting in the room with them designing this format. And, again, like a few years ago when the news broke that there was going to be expansion of the playoff, you and I were doing the radio show together before we started doing this show. And, again, the format was a little different back then. It was the 6+6 as opposed to the 5+7, which is what they approved this week. But, again, like one of the big things that stood out was, Notre Dame's never going to get a bye in all this. And Jack Swarbrick agreed to this.
Jack Swarbrick helped write the plan, folks.
Right. But again, this is, I'm flashing back to like almost 3 years ago when we were talking about it. And, I don't think either one of us really cared for a system. Our initial knee-jerk reaction was, wow, Notre Dame's never going to get a bye. Why would they agree to this? Why would they want this? But again, then you sit back and you look at it, and we both changed our thinking on it, as we looked at it, because you look at it closer. Again, this is Notre Dame's concession to not being in a conference.
Correct.
This doesn't mean Notre Dame needs to be in a conference. This is Notre Dame's concession to not being in a conference, because the teams that are in a conference, obviously, the best teams, are going to have to play in a conference championship game, game number 13. If you win your conference title game and you're ranked as one of the top 4, you get a first-round bye. The other 8 teams, like, there's going to be a conference champion. There's going to be a 5th conference champion that's not going to get a first-round bye either.
Correct.
And, so since Notre Dame doesn't have to jump through that hoop playing that 13th game, as we've said plenty of times on this show, they're, I don't know if you want to count, not necessarily even consolation. They don't have to play that extra game, but if they're ranked 5 through 8, they're going to get to host a first round playoff game. It's one of the prices that you pay to remain independent.
Right.
And that's why Jack Swarbrick negotiated this.
Yes.
He wasn't saddled with this. He wasn't stuck with this. Jack Swarbrick negotiated this because Notre Dame wants to remain independent. It is just another piece to the puzzle for Notre Dame being able to remain independent going forward. They have better access to the college football playoff. They still have their own TV contract. They're going to get to host, college football playoff games, and they don't have to play a conference championship game. It's part of the deal. They know it. They knew it going in. So, like, anyone raising a stink about this just hasn't looked that closely at it at all.
And look, bottom line, right? A conference champion, needs to win 4 games to win the college football playoff. The conference championship, 3 playoff games.
Right.
Guess how many games Notre Dame has to win? 4 games, 4 rounds in the college football championship. So tell me what the difference is. You know who really gets screwed in this? The person that was in the conference championship and lost. They have to lose 1 and then win 4 more. They're the ones that are getting screwed out of this whole deal.
Right.
Not Notre Dame at all. Right. Not Notre Dame. So
Well, and that you don't have to risk injury. You don't have to prepare for a game. You don't have to travel to a game. You don't have to play that game. You get to sit back for a few weeks, watch conference championship weekend. You're off that weekend. You get to, your guys get to rest a little bit. you get back to practice and you start preparing for the actual playoff game. It's a game that they don't have to worry about. It's
they
like
3 weeks.
It's really just semantics when you
Yeah.
think about it. It's just or not even some. It's just like a little shell game. It's like, okay, we're going to play this game here, potentially at home.
Yeah.
Again, rather than have to travel, get ready for a game, risk injury, all these different things. And if you're hosting that first round game, you're going to play the number 12 seed one. If you're the number 5 seed, you're going to play a lower seeded team. You're going to get to be at home. You're going to help your local economy.
Yeah.
You're going to help your own economy, pocketbooks, selling home tickets, and the playoff, I'm sure, because it's a playoff game,
but there's
going to get a share,
but
you're still going to
the other
that's
parts,
right. That's
all the
exactly
other
right.
part. And I don't want to harp on this too long, but I will bring up Joe's comment here. He says, not trying to be negative, but the committee doesn't really like Notre Dame. It's not guaranteed that they will be ranked 5 through 8, even if they're undefeated. Number one, there is an absolute guarantee if they're undefeated that they will be ranked 5 through 8. I'll take that one to the bank. And number two, the committee has actually never shown that they dislike Notre Dame.
Right.
I would say if there's ever any question, Notre Dame gets the benefit of the doubt every time.
And remember, it's a different committee every year. It's not the same.
That's also true.
Number of the committee just turned over. Like, Boo Corrigan, who was the chair of the committee the last 2 years, he's no longer part of it. So it turns over all the time. It's not the same group of people evaluating it. And there are former Notre Dame people who are part of the committee, as well.
Yep.
So
I disagree that.
But you're absolutely right. It's actually like if Notre Dame stays undefeated, the committee has actually been very favorable to them in the past. Very favorable.
100%.
Like typically where Notre Dame has hurt itself is, remember, when they went out to Fenway Park and, like they what was 2015 when like things fell apart for them towards the end of the season. Like if they had just taken care of their own business,
they were going
to be in the playoff at that point.
Yeah, so they've been very good to Notre Dame. I will say, and I guarantee you, if I asked this question to Brian, he'd be able to come up with all the different scenarios and facts to back me up. But I've heard him give that argument before, and so I know that the committee has been very good to Notre Dame. So
yes. DK, by the way, thank you for the super chat. Give Jesse his $2 back. So
that's fantastic.
I love it. All right, so on the same general subject, a little bit shift. So they were talking about this on First Take today. You had Stephen A. Smith, he had Feinbaum on, and I don't know who was with him, but Stephen A. Smith went on a "Why is Notre Dame relevant considering they haven't won a championship in 36 years" rant today on his show. Your answer to Stephen A. Smith's simplistic question is what?
Eyeballs. That's my simplistic answer. Eyeballs. They're relevant because they get eyeballs and they make money. They make money for whatever city that they're playing in. They make money for whatever TV network they're on. They make you money and they bring eyeballs to the table. That's why they're relevant. And whenever that ceases to be the case, and they're not winning on the field, then fine. They're not relevant anymore. That's never going to happen. I'm sorry, but it's true. That's why they're relevant. Sorry, Steven.
I should issue this disclaimer. He said this on First Take, and I don't watch First Take, and I wasn't watching today, but it quickly made the rounds on social media.
I did. I saw the video, but I didn't listen to it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be jaded when I answered the question.
Yeah.
But I did see it making its rounds today.
Right.
Yeah.
But guess what? What goes viral on social media? Hot takes on at least somewhat relevant topics.
Relevant topics.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. So Stephen A. Smith might tick you off, but he knows what he was doing. Like, do you think that he genuinely believes Notre Dame has no relevance? He knew that there was a very good chance that just by talking about this and by going off on this, he spent 3.5 minutes talking about irrelevant Notre Dame, according to, the words that actually came out of his mouth, right? Like, Notre Dame might not have won a championship since 1988, but you know what helped Notre Dame get that NBC TV contract that's more than 30 years old? Winning that championship. Winning that championship. And the fact that they have some relevance behind them. Notre Dame's kept ponying up to renew that TV contract over the last 30 years. And why does ESPN and ABC televise all these games? Because they're relevant. You know, it's like there's a difference between competitive relevance and zeitgeist relevance, basically. You know, two completely different conversations. Notre Dame polarizes people and moves the needle.
Sure.
And Stephen A. wouldn't have been talking about him otherwise. He knew exactly what he was doing when he brought this up. He was talking about him because he knows there's actually relevance to Notre Dame. In his world, the world of TV ratings and clicks, and, you know, again, going viral and all this, he knew that this was something that would blow up on social media. It was the perfect social media topic. That's exactly why he brought it up. So for him to say otherwise is just
hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's why these writers are putting stuff out about Notre Dame not being able to be in the top 4 and get a bye. Like, we've all known that, but go ahead and put it out there and get your clicks and get your, get us talking about it. And, all these different things. Like, it's because they're relevant.
Yeah.
Okay. Period. And look, and I mean this with love, right? When was the last time the Cowboys won a Super Bowl?
I mean, we're going on 30 years for that as well.
Are they still relevant?
But how many of these different shows, whether it's First Take or Get Up or whatever, on SVP at night, Cowboys lead, and you can have the exact same conversation about them, whether or not they are actually relevant. And there are some, like Cal Brandt, like Jesse, Cal Brandt on Good Morning Football on the NFL Network just drives Jesse nuts because Kyle, has basically, it's like, look, they're the Cowboys. Because they're the Cowboys, we've got to talk about them. But I'm really tired of talking about the Cowboys until they prove they can do something when it matters. The Cowboys or Dak Prescott or Jerry Jones or whoever. And quite frankly, I have fallen into that same category as a Cowboys fan as Cal Brandt. Like, I'm tired of people. I don't want to talk about them either. Put up or shut up at this point.
Yeah.
But your point is taken because they're the Cowboys, because it's Notre Dame, because it's the Yankees or the Red Sox or the LA Lakers. They're going to be talked about because all of those teams polarize. And polarization draws people from both sides. And whether you love them or hate them, you're going to sit there and listen. You're either going to retweet it because you hate them, and you're like, see, just like is going on in the last 24 hours with all this Notre Dame stuff, or you're going to yell at the guy because you're a fan and you love him. And that's exactly why people talk about all these different teams like that.
Absolutely. Look, the Cubs won. Obviously, they won the World Series. It was awesome. But they were still relevant up to that point.
Yeah.
They would still get Sunday Night Baseball. They would still, because they get eyeballs.
Right.
People care and they want to watch.
Right.
That will always be the case. So if you're going
to, the reason you still get Yankees Red Sox games nationally televised when neither team is in playoff contention
all the time.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yep.
Okay, fill in the blank. It's blank that the ACC has approved the use of helmet technology and sideline tablets during games this season.
It's about freaking time. Okay, I've been out of high school coaching for the last couple of years, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so I coached high school for 15 years. For about the last 5 to 7, we had live review or live replay on the sideline on our tablets.
Really?
Yes. Why could high schools in the inner city of South Bend have this technology, but you can't have it in college?
Right.
That makes 0 sense to me. At 0 sense. I've never understood it. It's about time that they, have this technology.
I completely agree. And it's like when you hear this and you sit there and think about it, and you've got this sign stealing scandal, running through college football last year, and the team that is accused of it ends up winning the national championship. And the NFL has it, like the tablet stuff specifically. It's like the headset stuff I knew that college football didn't have, but like the sideline tablet, like that seems pretty natural that they should have that. And I guess it's, a financial deal is what people have tried to say, why it hasn't been done. Are you kidding me? With all these billions
Come
of dollars
on.
that are changing hands, we just got done talking about the college football playoff, the billions of dollars there, the billions of dollars that are changing hands with these TV contracts for the SEC and the Big Ten and everybody else. There's no reason that in college football, especially Power 5, that for a few $1,000s, that should be the holdup. Everyone should have it at this point. It's 2024.
It's not complicated technology, I can tell you that. I would set it up every time for a Friday night football game, and as long as you had an iPad or an iPhone, you tap into it, you open the app, you got replay.
Yeah.
Draw on it, you can push it up onto a TV. Like, we used to set up a flat screen TV underneath a 10 by 10 tent, that you use for tailgating, put it on a table, and I would push the video from my iPad onto the thing, and I'd be coaching up the guys on the offense when the defense was on the field. Hey, this is what you did wrong. You didn't step here. You didn't do like it is instantaneous. It's awesome. Yeah. It's awesome. Again, you're telling me that an inner city South Bend public school can afford that, but Notre Dame and the Power 5 and all these other schools can't? Come on. That is not an argument that holds water, number one. And then you talk about the communication in the helmet. Now, obviously, they don't have that in high school, but you can communicate dugout to catcher now, by the way, in one-way radio. Just
in high school.
In high school. Yes, you can.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
I knew they started that in college
a
few years ago.
So
but that's another thing. That. Like, if college baseball can be doing that, there's a lot more money in college football.
Right.
Why hasn't college football been doing something similar?
So, but you know why they're doing the helmet, the coach to helmet technology now? It's because of the Michigan scandal.
Right.
The NCAA is so reactionary.
Right.
That's the problem. Right. That's the problem. And, and Paul says, are we talking about helmet communication? We're talking about that and the fact you can now have a tablet on the sidelines.
You can have tablets and there's going to be
so it's both.
Helmet communication. And to me, the helmet communication, like, again, I didn't realize that you couldn't with the tablets before. It just seems like as long as that stuff has been out there, and the fact that you see every NFL game and guys on the sideline scroll, like how they didn't have that. But the helmet thing, again, it's like the NFL has had this for what, at least probably 20 years now, right? Like 15 or 20 years with the helmet communication.
The helmet communication for sure. Yeah.
Push the tablets aside. Let's just talk about the helmet communication.
Gotcha.
The helmet communicate, like, it seems so simple.
It is.
Because, like, all the coaches have headsets. They're wired to the guys in the press box. Like, it seems like a very simple fix instead of, the guys with the signs and, like decoy guys on the sidelines doing the signals and all this. Like, why are we relying on that? That is literally stuff from the 1950s when they've had the technology to just put a little speaker in the quarterback's helmet for decades now. Why have they not been doing it?
And it's not like it's two-way. It's literally a speaker. I don't know why it took so long. It makes no sense to me. It makes zero sense to me. But I guess good on them for finally saying it's okay.
Well, and it seems like the helmet companies themselves, like you just say, okay, this is going to be a quarterback's helmet, and they just put a speaker in the helmet.
Right?
How does it need to be more difficult than that?
It's not. That's the thing.
And really, all these companies to get, whether it's like Motorola or, like
Coach Com.
Yeah. Like whatever, company like Beats or, whoever, happens to be the sponsor. Like you see the coaches with the logos on the side and stuff like that. It's like, it just seems like an easy, like those companies want to be involved with high profile programs. It's like you put a logo on a headset, or you put a little bit of signage in the background, and the companies will probably give you most of that equipment just for using it.
And it's not expensive to begin with. That's the thing.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement on that, or most of us. You and I are in agreement on that. So J.J. Watt wants to see more holding flags thrown on offensive linemen trying to block defensive players. Shock, former defensive lineman.
Yeah, exactly.
3 more flags thrown. Watt says the way to do it is to reduce the penalty for holding from 10 yards to 5 yards. So right now, a holding call offensive player is flagged for holding 10-yard penalty. Pretty standard across the board everywhere. So he says drop it from 10 to 5. He says if you do that, it's more likely to be called more fairly because it's not as crippling to the offense. Do you buy or sell that?
That's a huge sell for me, and here's why. I think if it's a 5-yard penalty, I think holding gets worse. I think there's going to be more holding because it's only a 5-yard penalty.
Right.
I think it's going to get worse. I think that's the exact opposite thing that you would want to do. I really do. If you want people to stop holding, make the penalty worse. Like make the penalty more severe. I'm completely opposite of what J.J. Watt says here. And now, do I think that it needs to be called more? Sure. There's holding on every play, right? And some of the stuff you saw, some of the replay on the Super Bowl, like there looked like there were some pretty egregious holds that were not called. Okay, I'm on board with that. But call it. I mean, call the penalty if you see it. I just making it a 5-yard penalty is going to make you want to hold more.
And because I completely agree with that. Like if you want to reduce holding, make the penalty stiffer, not easier. Because because of what you're saying, an offensive lineman is like, oh, get J.J. Watt or T.J. Watt, either one of them across from me. If I'm only going to be flagged for 5 yards, what's the big deal? I'm just going to I'm going to hold on to this guy even more and make sure he doesn't get to my quarterback. And the quarterback might just issue bonuses. It's like, I don't care how many holding calls you get, just keep that guy away from me. I completely agree. I think it's stupid. And again, I think this is, a really good defensive end who's going to be in the Hall of Fame one day, who is used to being held, and he just, he got sick of being held all the time, and in his eyes, not having enough holding calls thrown. People don't want to see more penalties anyway. No. And that's the thing is all the officials have to, they have to sort of differentiate. It's like, how severe is the holding? Because there is holding on every play. How severe is it? Is this actually worth throwing a flag?
Right.
In this case. So I think it's complete. I think it's complete BS. I think J.J. Watt is, yeah. So I saw a college basketball writer tweet after the Super Bowl that if the Super Bowl can kick off at 6:30, why does the NCAA men's basketball national championship game not tip off until 9:30? So my question to you, what would you do with college basketball's title game if you could wave your magic wand and make the decision?
Okay. Number one, the writer in question, it's not apples to apples because the Super Bowl's on the weekend and the NCAA championship is on a Monday night. And so it's earlier because nobody on the West Coast has to get home from work. I shouldn't say nobody. The majority of the people aren't coming home from work on a Sunday. They can start it earlier. On Monday, they have to wait for the West Coast people to get home so they can get as many eyeballs on the game as possible.
Right.
So it starts at 9:20 because that's 6:20 out west, right? Mm-hmm. So they're stuck. They don't really have a choice when they start the game on Monday. Now, if I am the czar of college basketball, you move the championship to a weekend. Now, the hard part about that is when do you have the two Final Four games? Because right now they're on Saturday.
And you also have to factor in the women's Final Four.
Because very good point.
Because I think last year the women's championship game was on ABC, but it tipped off at like 3:30 in the afternoon or something like that. Yeah. And it actually got really good ratings because Caitlin Clark was playing in it and all that kind of. But that is part of the fact, because like they've moved the women's back and forth. It's like, they've played it on Sundays before. They've played it as far as Tuesdays before. To me, I would just, look, the first 2 weekends of the NCAA tournament, you've got games going all day, Thursday and Friday, that first weekend, as well as Saturday and Sunday. And then the next weekend, Sweet 16 and Elite 8, you start off at like 7:30 or something like that. Why not just make the semifinals on a Thursday, play the national championship game on a Saturday night? And then for the women's, you play them Friday night and Sunday.
It seems like
seems like an easy solution because of it's the reason it's so late is what you're talking about. You have to wait for the West Coast people to get home on a Monday. If you play it on a weekend, you don't have to wait for that.
Exactly. And they do double headers at night all the time on weekdays, because we're talking about the Final Four, right? They do like Big Monday and all this other crap. Like they do a 7 and a 9 o'clock game all the time. Like how many times have I gone to like a Notre Dame men's game at 9 o'clock on a Thursday? You know what I mean? So that's not out of the ordinary. Right. So you can do your Final Four games on Thursday. You do your national championship game on Saturday. And then you, like you said, women on Friday and Sunday. I think that's the fix right there. Monday night is a terrible time to do it. It's terrible.
Yeah.
I don't like that in any way, shape, or form. Just
Monday at 9:30, especially because even Monday night football starts by 8:30. You know, like if you're like at the very least, make it, let it start at 8:30.
Exactly.
Like 9:30 just seems ridiculous.
Which is but also another reason why they shouldn't have the college football national championship on a Monday night either. That's dumb too, because football lasts longer than basketball, and it should not be on a Monday night. That is the worst idea ever.
Nope. I mean, I think like I said, all you've got to do, they've played these tournament games on weeknights anyway. What's the difference if you put the Final Four on a Thursday night or a Friday night, then play a championship on a Saturday or a Sunday? Like, that seems like the easy solution. Whether or not they would ever want to do it, I don't know.
Right. I know. It's tradition to have it on Monday.
Thank you, Ryan Roberts' forehead. It sounds like he might be checking out. And he says,
tip of the hat.
Tip of the cat. Chief Brody wants to know where we get the rapid fire content.
From the brains of Sean Stiers and Vince D'Addario when Sean Stiers isn't there. And then I usually get a nice assist from Stiers Jr. Usually throws in a question or two. Yeah. Which is always nice. But yeah, man, from the old brains, mostly yours.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like if you want more specifics than that, I literally have a couple of Word documents where if like things come up and I'll see it, I'll like paste it in there.
Oh, nice.
The more relevant or the more timely, the more the topic gets pushed up to the top, but there are plenty of, what we call evergreen stuff that we can save, it literally comes from scrolling through Twitter to see, like what actually, and I've said this before. I don't use nut job Twitter, like because some jabronis out there tweeting some stuff. I'm not going off the, but it like go, between Twitter, watching the different sports networks and whatever else. It's like literally, there's just always something going on. Always looking for content, so I'll sit there and like if I see something, I'll like I said, I'll screenshot it or save it. Or if I'm listening to a podcast and I'm, like I'll open my notes and I'll say, oh, that's a good one, and I'll just write down, jot down a little note. So, Gregory, thank you for the super chat, sir. How are you able to tell the difference between scheme and player talent when watching football? People don't like Jared Parker due to issues with his scheme, even though there was team statistical success.
Well, that's a really good question, Gregory.
It is deep, too.
I mean, it is very deep, and I don't know that I can just sit here and answer it, to be honest with you. I mean, it's something that you have to kind of show on video, on film, and show the difference, right? I mean, player talent, like, okay, here's, I guess, the best example I can come up with. Audric Estime literally running guys over and breaking tackles is player talent, not scheme. Players scheme would be your formations to get a matchup that is beneficial to the offense and then taking advantage of that, right? So I think, Gregory, this is a really good question because people claim they didn't like Jared Parker's scheme and all of that, but he had a lot of success with his offense. Now, I think what sticks out to people are like the end of the Ohio State game, for example, or, things of that nature. And that's what sticks out. And you're like, well, why did they throw a screen pass? Okay, I get that. You can't boil down an entire offense to one game. I mean, or one series of one game, right? And so I think Jared Parker did a really good job with scheme, to be honest with you, but he also had good players that made plays. So it's a little bit of both, but yeah, I think you make a really good point, Gregory, and I appreciate the question.
No, and I mean it's literally, NFL teams spend a lot of time and money on trying to differentiate this every year.
Oh yeah,
like that's how you get conversations like how good is Caleb Williams really when he played in Lincoln Riley's system for 3 years, and he had a great year 1 year, won a Heisman Trophy, and then regressed the next year. And there have been a lot of guys who have played in that system where it's like, how good really is he? And like how much of it comes down to, the fact that Ohio State has NFL wide receivers all over the place, but CJ Stroud to this point has been one of a handful of actual successful former Ohio State quarterbacks in the NFL. All those different things, the level of competition that you're playing against. Are you just that much better than the teams that you're playing against? It's tough, but
yeah.
That's where guys get paid a lot of money to try to differ. And again, like when you boil it down, most of the success that Jared Parker and that offense had was against the teams that weren't quite as good on the schedule, whereas the difficulties that they had were against the better teams on the schedule.
Yeah, and it was interesting because this isn't anything against you. It is too simple to say that, though, because I thought his scheme was really good against those teams. And I thought when they went up against
also have to perform.
Sure. But I think going up against the harder opponents, I feel like some of his scheme went away. And he almost overly simplified the offense versus better opponents. Right. I thought he was way more creative against the lesser opponents. And if he would have used that against Ohio State, I win that game going away. So that honestly, that was the frustrating part for me of the offense this past season was we saw the creativity. We saw the good scheme, but it was like he was afraid to do that against the better opponents. That I guess is my biggest issue with the offense.
No, that's a good point. Well, I think that's going to do it for tonight. Good stuff. Good questions tonight. Finished up strong with a really good question there.
Yeah, it was.
As well.
Thanks for the super chat.
That's right. All right, so we will wrap it up with that. Sounds like no show tomorrow, but Jesse and Vince and I will be back Friday with the 5 o'clock rapid fire show. And there's going to be, I don't know if you saw this, we're going to get to talk to Mike Denbrock.
I did see this.
And Max Bulla on Friday. So
I don't think we've ever talked to Max Bulla before. And obviously
I don't think so either.
The first time that we get to hear from Denbrock. So should be good.
Yep. So expect some conversation on that. Expect to hear a little bit of a few comments from them. I think somebody got in late.
Yeah.
M. Glade 1989. He says, has the Stephen A. Smith question. I think he's asking if it has been talked about. It has.
Oh, yes.
Go back, rewind. We talked about it, maybe 30 or 40 minutes ago?
Yeah, right at the beginning of Rapid Fire, really.
Yeah, probably about a half hour ago. Go back to the start of Rapid Fire, if you can find the start of Rapid Fire. I think we started right about an hour into the show. So if you want to hear about college football playoff and how, and Notre Dame's place in that, as well as the Stephen A. Smith stuff.
Right.
We talked about it.
And we do have a super chat that we missed from Chief Brody. Thank you, Chief, for your super chat. Buy or sell claiming Notre Dame as champs in 2012. And he says Collie at the end.
I'm not sure.
I don't know who's claiming that,
missing?
But it's ridiculous. You can't claim a national championship when you get the doors blown off you in the national championship game. So I don't know where that's coming from, my guy, but we answered your question. It's a huge sell.
Yeah.
Huge sell.
Big sell. I don't know why.
I don't know what the context is. I don't know why anybody would say that, but it's not. You can't do that.
Yeah, again, M. Glade, The Why is Notre Dame Relevant Stephen A. Smith stuff, we talked about it a half an hour ago. So if you want to go back, check that out, or just wait for Thursday morning and download the podcast. You can do that as well. It's right at the start of Rapid Fire. So we got that for you. Got you covered. All right. Hit the like button before you leave, please. And of course, subscribe, rate, and review. And we will talk to you Friday on IB Nation Sports Talk.